Right now on Currents News, the bishops are back, and we have team coverage from Baltimore. A look at the USCCB agenda and who's on the ballot. Could a priest from the Diocese of Brooklyn become the next conference president? The manhunt is over, but questions remain. Why were football players murdered? Carnage on UVA's campus. And this guy is back out on the streets. Throwing a wrench through Cardinal Dolan's window wasn't enough to keep him behind bars. Plus, a pulse of the parish. Meet the woman behind Our Lady of Fatima. She's part of its heart and soul, keeping faith alive and well. Then he's marching to the beat of his dreams. He can't hear it, but he can feel it. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. It's an election year for just about everyone, and that includes the United States bishops. They're in Baltimore right now to begin their fall assembly, and this year they'll choose a new leader. We have team coverage for the week-long conference, but let's start from the beginning. Currents News' Jessica Easthope is taking a look at what they hope to accomplish.
And I call this meeting to order.
The bishops are back, and their agenda is stacked. Everything from abortion to the war in Ukraine will be discussed this week. But who will guide the bishops in these matters moving forward?
And please vote on the question.
It's an election year for them, too. The conference will choose a new president and second in command. Plus, they'll vote for the new leaders of 6 committees.
Our lifetimes are going to be shaped by what happens.
With midterm madness still all around the United States, the bishops are set to discuss how to help Catholics vote with their conscience. Do they need to make some revisions to their faithful citizenship document? That's a big question this year. Another big question: how should the church respond to the overturning of Roe v. Wade? The bishops will brainstorm ways they can further help mothers, babies, and families. Plus, new saints? The bishops will hear the cases for 3 American women and decide if their causes for sainthood should continue. Leslie, 2022 is the 20th anniversary of the USCCB's adoption of the Charter for the Protection of Children and Young People. The bishops will spend a lot of time praying and reflecting on the American Church's response to clergy sex abuse. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Let's take a closer look at those candidates for president Jessica mentioned. Remember, all 10 were nominated by their fellow bishops. So in the running, we have Archbishop Timothy Broglio from the U.S. Archdiocese for the Military Services, Bishop Michael Burbidge of Arlington, Bishop Frank Caggiano of Bridgeport, Connecticut, a Brooklyn native, Archbishop Paul Coakley of Oklahoma City, Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of San Francisco, Archbishop Paul Aitchen of Seattle, Bishop Daniel Flores of Brownsville, Texas, Archbishop Gustavo Garcia Siller of San Antonio, Archbishop William Laurie of Baltimore, and finally, Bishop Kevin Rhodes of Fort Wayne, South Bend, Indiana. The president and VP will serve 3-year terms, and they'll get right to work. Their service will begin at the conclusion of this year's General Assembly later this week. At that time, Archbishop Jose Gomez of Los Angeles and Archbishop Alan Vigneron of Detroit will step down. Joining us now to break down everything on the bishop's agenda is John Lavenberg, the national correspondent for The Tablet, and Cruxy standing by in Baltimore Harbor. Hi, John.
Hi, Christine.
All right, John, let's get right to the candidates. I want to talk about Bishop Frank Caggiano. Before heading over to Bridgeport, he was an auxiliary in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Is he one of the front runners? What are you hearing?
You know, Christine, it's very hard to say whether or not he's a front runner, but what I can say is he's one of a number of candidates that are known as very pastoral. Many of them have leadership positions in the USCCB already as well. Archbishop William Laurie of Baltimore is one, Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of San Francisco is another, and Archbishop Gustavo Garcia Siller of San Antonio is another who we know well on Currents. So how this is going to work tomorrow is it's going to be a simple majority vote to see who the new president will be. So they'll vote for the president. That simple majority will come in, and then from those 9 remaining candidates, they will vote again to see who the vice president will be. In case of a tie, they will vote a 3rd time, but it's as simple as that, just a simple majority vote to figure out who will hold those positions for the next 3 years.
Okay, you mentioned Archbishop William Laurie. He chairs the pro-life committee and is set to give a special address. This obviously comes right after the midterms, and there were plenty of pro-life defeats. What do you think he'll have to say?
It's really interesting, Christine, what we've seen from Archbishop Lurie since the Dobbs decision came down. In that time, it's been very clear how the USCCB and Archbishop Lurie and the Pro-Life Committee have really kind of had to shift their focus a little bit. You know, we've seen bishops in their respective dioceses speaking out on abortion at the state level. And then from Archbishop Lurie, we've seen more broader documents, like he recently issued a letter with 4 other conference chairmen about radical solidarity and supporting women and families, where he talked about a society where abortion is unthinkable. So we'll see how he approaches his comments tomorrow. But again, these discussions lately since Dobbs, they've really let the local bishops take control of how things are going to be portrayed in their dioceses. Well, he focuses a lot on the broader issues and the broader pro-life cause.
Hey, John, while you're talking, I can hear somebody else behind you. Is there a protest or a rally or something going on there?
It seems, you know, there's a few flags. There's an American flag. It's a bunch of people kind of circled up around one gentleman with a microphone at the moment, and they were doing a rosary a bit ago, and it seems that they're speaking on behalf of the pro-life cause. When I walked by, I didn't see any bishops associated with it, so I think it's separate from the conference, but it does appear to be a prayer rally for the pro-life cause.
All right, and there's also supposed to be a big focus on prayer and reflection inside the conference. They did this last year, too. What's the significance here? Don't they always pray and reflect?
So what I've been told by someone with the USCCB is this is something they started coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. If you remember, for that period during COVID, these bishops' assemblies were virtual, and the bishops didn't like that method. They thought it didn't give them the chance to discuss and dialogue ahead of time. So what they started then is they have this extra day. Last year it was Monday as well. This year it is today, where they can get together, pray together, and also talk about certain things. And if you remember, one of the top agenda items last year was the document on the Eucharist, and a lot of bishops told me at the conference last year that that extra day was an important time for them to get together and really talk about how they were going to approach it to present a united front.
All right, John, last question really quick. The 3 women being considered for sainthood. Tell us a little bit about who they are.
Sure. So first there's Cora Evans. She is a Catholic convert who is known to have mystical experiences, as in visits from Mother Mary and things like that. Another is Michelle Dupont. She is known for her work in Catholic campus ministry, and then the third is Mother Margaret Mary Healy Murphy. And so she founded a convent down in Texas, and before that she was known to have ministered to Mexican Americans and African Americans in poorer communities.
All right, exciting stuff. John Lavenberg, national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux. We'll check back in with you again tomorrow.
Thank you, Christine.
And be sure to stay with Currents News as we continue our team coverage of the bishops in Baltimore. The first call to order is tomorrow, and John Lavenberg will be there. That's Tuesday on Currents News. The manhunt is over. The suspect who killed 3 football players at the University of Virginia is in custody. But big questions remain. Why did a student kill his classmates? What exactly was behind this carnage on campus? Chris Wynn has the latest.
Terror in Charlottesville as a deadly shooting Sunday night sent the University of Virginia into lockdown.
This is a sad, shocking, and tragic day for our UVA community.
A massive manhunt overnight as police searched for this man, UVA student and former football player Christopher Jones Jr., who's suspected of killing 3 schoolmates and injuring 2 others as they returned from a field trip to Washington, D.C. Officials say the shooter opened fire on a bus full of students in a parking garage on the UVA campus.
My heart is broken for the victims and their families and for all those who knew and loved them.
The UVA president identifying victims who died as Devin Chandler, a junior from Huntersville, North Carolina, Lavelle Davis Jr., a junior from Dorchester, South Carolina, and Deshaun Perry, a junior from Miami, Florida. All 3 were members of the UVA football team. UVA police say the suspect had been investigated by campus officials in September after someone reported him making a comment about owning a gun. By mid-Monday morning, Jones had been found away from campus and taken into custody.
We've secured arrest warrants for Mr. Jones. We've charged him with 3 counts of second-degree murder, and we charged him with 3 counts of using a handgun in the commission of a felony.
The suspect's motive unclear as students and the victims' families now try to make sense of this tragedy.
Please reach out to each other and lend each other an ear and a shoulder, even if virtually.
Chris Wynn, Currents News.
There is a Catholic parish, St. Thomas Aquinas, on the University of Virginia's campus. After the shelter-in-place order was lifted, the church immediately reopened so students and faculty could come together to pray. There was also a friar available for anyone who wanted to grieve. This evening, there will be a vigil for the victims. We will have full coverage tomorrow. We'll speak with the pastor there, Father Walter Wagner, about the vigil and the church's plans to help in the shooting's aftermath. Again, Father Wagner will join us at 7 o'clock on Tuesday's edition of Currents News. Remember the man accused of throwing a wrench at Cardinal Timothy Dolan's residence? Well, he's back on the streets. He was cut loose Thursday, just hours after being arrested due to cashless bail. It's not his first run-in with the law. In another recent incident, he dropped a glass bottle over a second-story railing at the shops at Columbus Circle as shoppers walked underneath. He's also been accused of going on a spree of kicking in doors and bashing windows of parked cars, but he's never been convicted. Those cases and more were dismissed in mental health court after he completed counseling sessions. He's due back in court December 13th. That release comes as the city is desperately trying to clean up its streets, but the focus is on trash, not criminals. The new initiative called Get Stuff Clean allocates more than $14 million and 200 new Department of Sanitation workers to clean 1,000 dirty sites across the city. Crews got out there for the first time Monday morning, but they picked up trash, emptied bins, and of course, they were on the hunt for what's become the mayor's nemesis.
It is no secret anywhere in the city or country that I hate rats, and we want to get rid of rats. That is what we need to do. We're going to kill rats and do a rat mitigation program in the city.
The Department of Sanitation has reported more than 21,600 rat complaints so far this year, a 71% increase since October of 2020. This weekend, Bishop Robert Brennan celebrated a milestone anniversary for a parish that once filled a desperate need in the Diocese of Brooklyn. The Church of St. Dominic's has now been a Bensonhurst staple for 50 years. The parish was born in the 1970s after an influx of Italian immigrants left nearby churches so crowded that then Bishop Francis McGovero established St. Dominic's to make some much-needed room. Since then, the parish has worked to give back to the community, feeding and clothing the homeless with a special outreach program. Bensonhurst has changed in the last half-century. The anniversary Mass was celebrated in 3 languages: English, Spanish, and Italian. And from one celebration to another, the Bishop of Brooklyn also took the time to honor another Italian, St. Andrew Avellino. The Flushing Parish celebrated their namesake this week. Here's a fun fact. According to parish history, they are the only church in the United States named in honor of him. The parish began in the early 20th century when the rapidly growing population in Flushing grew tired of traveling downtown to get to the nearest Catholic church. It was named after St. Avellino because the bishop at the time was very concerned about the number of priests who had suffered heart attacks. So he named the parish after the 16th century Italian who is the patron saint of victims of heart attacks. Some 600 people celebrated the feast day. From Italian pride to a celebration of Black Catholic history, the Nigerian community gathered together for a Mass in their native language, Igbo, at St. Fortunata Church in Brooklyn on Sunday. The community donned traditional garb as a choir sang songs from their country, accompanied with instruments from Nigeria. The Mass was coordinated by the Diocese of Brooklyn's Nigerian Apostolate. And there's a lot more news headed your way. We're taking you back to summertime.
A lot of people do choose here because of the faith.
How this religion teacher spends her summer break and why she makes up the pulse of the parish. Plus, it's a luncheon for some 1,300 people, why Pope Francis was breaking bread with them. And can you feel the beat? This drummer sure can, and that's what makes him so good. His incredible story later. Faith, friends, and fun. 3 reasons families race to Jackson Heights every year for summer camp. And there's one woman to thank for that. A religion teacher at Our Lady of Fatima Catholic Academy doesn't stop working when school lets out in June. She continues to put her faith into action by organizing the church's day camp. This is her story in my Currents News series, Pulse of the Parish.
The focal point of any church would be the altar.
But it's the backdrop of the altar at Our Lady of Fatima that really grabs your attention. 200,000 colored tiles, along with some 18-karat gold, make up the stunning handmade mosaic of the apparition.
It is really one of the largest mosaics installed in parishes in America.
The pastor, Father Darrell DaCosta, gave us a tour of the Jackson Heights Church, from the beautiful stained glass windows that line the sides of the church to the altar decoration showing the Blessed Mother visiting the children in 1917. Fast forward more than 100 years, now the children are visiting Our Lady of Fatima for summer camp. The squeak of the playground swings and the squeal of laughter during water balloon fights, the sounds of success for camp director Elizabeth Riley.
We're trying to really enjoy every little moment of every little day and do something a little bit special each day.
On this day, the special event was a backyard barbecue. Just one of the ideas Elizabeth cooked up when she started planning the camp back in January while teaching religion at Our Lady of Fatima Catholic Academy. And even though she keeps her lesson plans in the classroom,
A lot of people do choose here because of the faith. Even non-Catholics love the idea of the faith.
Elizabeth is the one who greets the parents at drop-off, oversees the counselors, and even spends some one-on-one time with the campers, albeit with frequent interruptions.
And a lot of ours. Yes, she does. But
Most of the counselors are graduates of the school, and for many, this is their first job.
They're learning about responsibility and communication and punctuality, and I hope they're modeling those kinds of things for the kids.
The kids are picking up some valuable lessons.
We're learning to have fun in your life, and we're learning to be kind and yeah.
And those are lessons some parents drive miles for their kids to learn. 5-year-old twins Nathaniel and Camilla's mom brings them here from Queens Village every day because of the camp's reputation and because of its director.
I go on like when you feel like a vibe, and she gives me a really good vibe, and she makes me feel comfortable, and I think that's been a blessing.
There's something about being in an area that is middle class working people. So when they're paying for something, they want a value from it. So to be able to create something where people appreciate what they're getting in return is pretty cool.
And now you know Elizabeth Riley from Our Lady of Fatima and how she makes up the pulse of the parish.
Elizabeth tells us 80% of the campers don't even attend Our Lady of Fatima Catholic Academy. This is Elizabeth's 9th year teaching there. Stay tuned for more Pulse of the Parish stories in the future. Lawmakers are back on Capitol Hill today for the first time since the midterm madness, but we still don't know who will control the House. After a long week counting mail votes out west, a Republican majority now seems in sight. Democrats fell short of their targets in some battleground districts in Arizona and California, and that puts Republicans even closer to the magic number, 218 seats necessary to win. If a president's party can only keep one chamber of Congress, the Senate is the one to have, which they locked in over the weekend. They're tasked with approving nominations, including secretaries, federal judges, and most crucially, Supreme Court justices. On the other hand, if the House falls, Biden's days of big bills will come to an end. Now to Indonesia. President Biden met with Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the G20 summit. It was their first face-to-face meeting since Biden took office, and Taiwan was top of agenda. Currents News' Andy Madison tells us the crisis there just may be averted.
The stakes between the superpowers could not have been higher. a potential openness to repairing relations, signaled with a handshake between President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping.
We had an open and candid conversation about our intentions and our priorities.
Tensions over Taiwan took center stage, Biden warning Xi against further provocations against the island. Following the talk, Biden said he did not interpret any imminent attempt by China to invade.
I made it clear that we want to see cross-strait issues peacefully resolved, and so it never has to come to that.
President Xi stated after the marathon meeting, Taiwan is the first red line that must not be crossed. Biden turning the focus to mutual economic goals.
We're going to compete vigorously, but I'm not looking for conflict. I'm looking to manage this competition responsibly.
And North Korea. Amid concerns over continued saber rattling, Biden said he's uncertain if China has the capacity to influence Pyongyang's nuclear pursuits.
I made it clear to President Xi Jinping that I thought they had an obligation to attempt to make it clear to North Korea that they should not engage in long-range nuclear tests.
The president also using the global stage to tout American democratic ideals as midterm results further crystallized.
And the American people prove once again that democracy is who we are.
Andy Madison, Currents News.
Meantime, Pope Francis had his own sit-down with some 1,300 people. It's an annual tradition for the pontiff in honor of the World Day of the Poor. The Holy Father hosted lunch for the poor and homeless inside the Vatican, even stopping at one of the tables to break bread with them. It's one of multiple initiatives the Vatican held in honor of the day. They also set up mobile clinics in St. Peter's Square and distributed food to 5,000 families in Rome. Still to come on Currents News.
Just surprised, but I don't feel like special.
Well, if you ask his bandmates, he is special. Why this 17-year-old is making history at his high school. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. A high school student in Virginia is marching to the beat of his dreams. The 17-year-old is part of the school's band. He can't hear the music he plays, but that doesn't stop him from feeling it.
Friday night football at Woodson High School in Fairfax County. And the marching band is gearing up for their final home game of the year.
They told me that they never seen people who is deaf in marching band.
By looking at the drum line, you would never know that one student here is deaf.
I'm deaf, so that I can't hear, but I can feel like it's vibrating. So that's why the bass is very loud, but you can feel it's vibrating, right?
The junior Michael Gwen is the first deaf drummer on the school's marching band.
Just surprised, but I don't feel like special. I feel normal person. Just like them.
Michael uses his cochlear implant, but he says it doesn't come without its challenges.
Every time when my battery dies and everything is like, it's all quiet. I can't hear anything. So it's really, really difficult to hear. But at least I can see the drum major.
At first, Michael used an American Sign Language interpreter. Now, he no longer requires one for the game performances.
Being deaf, it doesn't mean you can't do anything. You can do anything, just try and see what's gonna happen. So just like I joined a marching band and never give up. So we're just like a normal person.
Amazing. Michael says after high school, he may attend Gallaudet, a university for deaf and hard of hearing students, and he may try out for the Baltimore Ravens marching band. Good luck to him. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.